Morning, no mai harangai. Welcome to our council meeting, scheduled for today, Tuesday, the 25th of November. And councillors, I don't need to remind you, we've got a fairly full work day in front of us, and we are anticipating to be bringing our meeting to a close at 2 p.m. so we can get up the road to Whitehall Hall for the citizenship ceremony, which is a wonderful occasion for our district. So I am just going to work through these early introductions, because we have got our friends from the Amberley Golf Club, and they're going to speak to us at 9:15. And I've offered them 5 minutes to speak, so Bruce and Paul are aware of that. 5 minutes to speak, and you will have 5 minutes to question, but I am going to be quite disciplined in that timing. Okay. So just by virtue of being in the building, you know the building, the door, I should say, that you need to exit, and the one to my left, and you know where our assembly point is. And so that covers off our health and safety matters for today. I am just going to perhaps put an apology for lateness for Dave Hislop, because I haven't heard back from him. I don't know that he's not attending today, so if you're comfortable with that. Do I need to move and see for that? Yeah, over Chris and Fiona. Sorry, all in agreement with that, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. As normal procedure, here he is right now. David. I will read the affirmation. We pledge that we will faithfully and impartially use our skills, wisdom, and judgment throughout the discussions and deliberations ahead of us today, in order to make responsible and appropriate decisions for the benefit of Taranui District at large. We commit individually and as council to the principles of integrity and respect, and to upholding the values that we believe distinguish and enrich our district. Thank you. Is there any conflicts of interest in regard to today's agenda? Councillors. Thank you. And we have, as normal practice, a recording device, and we are being live streamed. So thank you, Graham. Just a note: you've all got pages in front of you, which is the urgent business, the separately circulated information, which was the financial report that you should have all received in your inbox. 5 o'clock or something last night, so but you have got copies in front of you today, so I'm sure you'll all have a chance to we look at that. So with that, we have got time to work through the minutes of our previous meetings, and we've got 2 meetings in front of us. The first meeting is our October 30th meeting, which is our inaugural meeting for this triennium. It was just one little typo on page 4 that I've just given Graham, but you've read through from pages 4 to 7. Are there any corrections that you have noted, councillors? Thank you. That being the case, can someone please move that we accept those minutes? Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Chris Scarlett. That we move those minutes as a true and accurate record. All in agreement to that, please say aye. Aye. It is carried, and I don't think there's any matters arising from that. We've continued to go work with those transitional matters, so thank you. If we could get through our minutes from our 4th of November meeting, pages 8, 9, and I know page 10 was a correction that's come through from Tom, so we've got that noted.
It's just a correction to Councillor Carthy on the south.
Yeah.
Sorry, the Westwood Council on the Taranui Community.
Correct. Yeah, so we'll pick that up, thank you. 11, 12 and 13. So we're just going through all of these, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21. 3 to page 27.
The appendix.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Sorry. So just going back to those minutes then, we've picked up that one correction. Robbie,
Page 25, 7.1, the second paragraph. I've made comment. I've made an example around whistleblower thing, and it was more around a case prominent in New Zealand at the moment that because they couldn't say the names of who had complained, they couldn't say what it was about. So the last comment, he said he would prefer to have protections in place to ensure that members be informed as much as possible about the accusation. I think that should stop there. I wasn't saying it was about they need to know about the person making it.
yeah,
I
right.
was saying it was the fact that they need to know what it was about.
Yeah, okay. So I think that's, yeah, so what you're talking about is the issue as opposed to the person. So you're happy with a full stop
After the accusation.
Yeah, and deleting the words and the person making it.
Yes, please.
Comfortable with that, Grant?
Thank you.
Thank you. And you don't make that change. Is there anything else, councillors? So with that, those couple of minor amendments to the minutes, is someone happy to move, please? Thank you, Brett. That we do have a seconder. Thank you, Vince. We take those minutes as true and accurate record. All in agreement with that, please say aye. Okay. Motion is carried. Thank you. Quick page turn. For any matters arising from that, I don't see any for the first wee while. We've got our meeting schedule. The only thing I would just as an early information, and will be confirmed with Graham, we're looking to, as a council, have a joint meeting with Kaikoura District Council, and that will be on looking to be planned for Wednesday the 4th. So just if you can perhaps pop that in your diary, and Graham will confirm that as we sort of firm up. So that's just the tentative booking at this stage. So just wanted to give you an early heads up on that one.
Is that December now?
Oh, February. Sorry. Good, thanks for listening. Sorry about that, guys. 4th of February, rightio. Okay, any other matters arising? Page 14, 15, 17. Thank you.
Page 10, I just wondered, we were talking about youth participation in community boards and the question on whether they would be able to receive public PE papers. I just wondered if we had an answer to that. If not, that's fine.
I don't have an answer to that.
No, sorry, I did write it in the minutes, but we haven't checked it out. So,
Yeah, then circulate by email. Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. So I think we're up to about page 19, 20, 21, and the rising. And more pages through to page 27, councillors. We will move on. Right, so if we now look at page 67, that is the Known Forward Works Programme. It is starting to be populated. More will come on board. This is, excuse me, just this will probably just take us through to the end of the year, and I guess early in 26 we'll get a fuller briefing on what's ahead of us. So I'm happy to take that paper just as it's read. I'm comfortable with that, councillors. Thank you. And then the mayoral diary on page 68 and 69. Any questions on that? We'll take that as read as well. Is someone happy to move, please, that we receive the information on page 67 through to 69? Fiona, Tom, put your hand up. Thank you. All in agreement. Carried. Thank you. We're a little bit ahead of time, but I think it would be prudent for us to now welcome Paul and Bruce to the table. A couple of chairs up here for you guys. And just while you're making your way here, you know the score, you've been here many times. And I'm just making an assumption that you are bringing some additional information, some new information, or confirming some information. But we offered you 5 minutes to provide that. I will ask councillors if they have questions, and we'll give 5 minutes for that, but we really do need to keep marching on today. We've got quite a lot on our agenda. So if you're comfortable with that, the time is, and we've got a buzzer gun going 5 minutes. Thank you.
Good morning, councillors. Today you've got a report in your agenda, item 5.1, concerning the extension of Grayson Ave to enable a new inland road connection to Golflinks Road. The report succinctly explains that the officers have now undertaken all the steps required to allow you as councillors to finally make a decision to proceed with the extension. The club wishes to thank everybody involved in getting us to this point. It's been a long time coming, but the past is past, and we now just want to ensure that the physical reality of the new road happens quickly and economically. The purchase of the private farmland has yet to be completed. We're pleased to be able to inform you that the landowners still remain willing sellers, and as we speak today, they're briefly overseas, but they return to Amberley this Thursday, and we'd suggest a phone call on first thing on Friday morning to set up an urgent meeting might be appropriate. They're busy people, but our understanding is that they're rather keen to get this matter out of the way as soon as possible. Excuse me. As an aid to those land negotiations, we've got a little bit of information here that we put together to help establish what we believe could be the price. There's a survey plan of the required subdivision that defines and measures the quantum of land required. The current Amberley farm land prices per hectare have to a large extent been set by the Taranui Council's recent purchases in the area anyway. But if you take the quantum of required land and the prices paid by the council, it's pretty easy to establish a reasonably fair idea of value. As we're an open meeting, we don't want to put that out, but it's there for you. We hope that's of some assistance. Suffice to say that the resultant figure is a small fraction of the estimated cost of land included in the report for you today. The report mentions an all-up cost of 1.4 million, made up of land acquisition, construction costs, and some incidentals. As we've previously advised council, we believe that a construction tender could be negotiated in the region of 700,000 or even less. That number was based on the council commissioning the work either at the time of the beach settlement fund rebuild or during the recent downturn in the construction market. We suspect that with the elapse of time, the price now is going to be slightly higher. However, the good news is that the contractor who undertook the beach fund work is interested, and the company advises us that if a contract is agreed promptly, the road could start work on the road towards the end of February 2026. We do want to point out that in the resource consent, we're required to build the road during the dry period, the summer period, so that would be very appropriate and consistent with the consent. All up, the Golf Club remains firmly of the view that swift and decisive action by the council will bring the road into being at a cost of less than $1 million. Councillors will of course be concerned about funding, and what we think it would be something in the region of $800,000 to $900,000. The report anticipates that this will come from new debt. Well, obviously any debt will be new in comparison to current debt, and we don't really see this as an issue. The road will be a long-term asset. Debt funding is the appropriate way to fund long-term assets as it ensures intergenerational equity amongst ratepayers. The amount required is small in the council's scheme of things. Any further delay of the inevitable will only see the cost and the required debt escalate. According to your records, your current average cost of debt is 3.3%, and you're also well within your various debt guidelines and debt headroom. We've noted that the council sets rates on the basis that 100% of your work program will be completed in the same year. Yet your own records show that last year council only completed a portion of the planned work, and many millions of program work had to be carried over. You're not alone in this situation. It happens in just about every council in New Zealand. And in the House, it's commonly referred to as the secret squirrel account. The same pattern of partial completion occurs every year, and as a consequence, councils remain well within the debt and interest budgets of their annual plan. So if a small amount of additional debt is now incurred to fund the Grayson Ave extension, unless the Taranui Council subsequently decides to spend many other millions on some other unplanned work, the council should still remain well inside its 25-26 budgets. So in summary, we urge you to resolve today to instruct staff to 1, urgently complete the already authorised land purchase, 2, immediately make the necessary approach to DOC to obtain the Minister of Conservation's approval for the use of a tiny piece of reserve land at the current end, Grayson Ave, it's about 382 square metres, I think. And immediately commence negotiations with the preferred contractor with a view to actual construction this summer. Thank you.
Bruce?
No.
Just thought I'd be nice, you know. Thank you, Paul, for that. You've covered off a range of issues, and I probably failed to recognise that we've actually got 4 new councillors in the room here today. 2 of them are representative of the South Ward and 2 from the West Ward. I'm not sure whether you've had contact with any of those councillors.
Congratulations, councillors.
Yeah. So have you been in contact with the councillors?
Couple.
Right, okay. So,
Madam Mayor, if I may, I have been in contact with Paul on Canterbury Anniversary Day, just so for the record.
Right.
So to talk through what he's just pointed out today.
okay, thank you. Thank you for that, because it's important that we have that transparency around this decision. This, no surprise to anybody that this has been a long decision, but I think whilst it's been a sense of frustration to the golf club and visitors to the golf club, I think that we owe it to ourselves and we owe it to our whole community to consider this in the fullness of what is being proposed here. And you both know well what Section 77 of the Local Government Act tells us that we need to do. I do feel somewhat concerned that we may not have fulfilled those obligations still. And that's my own personal concern, but I'm hoping that you have informed the involved community that we need to take things slowly, we need to do things diligently, and we need to do things well. That is the expectation that the community places on us as elected leaders. So I hope that we have your support and understanding what that actually means in a significant decision like this. So, thank you. Councillors, is there any questions that you've heard from Paul today? Thank you, Brett.
Through the chair, could I just ask, as a new councillor, there's one thing I'm just curious about, and if you could give me some background, why is the western alignment not being considered, or it was considered, but why is it not more attractive when life expectancy longer, maintenance less, and capital costs less? Why is western more attractive than that?
Amongst the golf club, we've got roading engineers and surveyors and so forth, and we don't accept that it's as described in the evaluation part of the report. We believe that a longer route, it requires more land acquisition. It takes 3 holes off the golf course, which basically is the golf course. And of course, it leaves us with a road access that's on the wrong side of the golf course in terms of our clubhouse facilities and so forth, so that if be a road built through the golf course. We just simply see it as much more expensive and not very practical. And it would be coming down the side of the river, and the original Jacobs report highlighted the flood risk down the side of the river as well. So there's a lot of issues in it which we respectfully disagree with the assessment that's in there.
Could I just add that there were 2 options for the Western report. One was that it as Paul says, would result in 2 or 3 holes being removed from the golf course. That alignment would have then put it on the rest of Golf Links Road, which is closer to the sea than that we're talking about, and which is obviously prone to sea erosion anyway. So the council did say, well, the option would be to stop the road at our boundary, which as Paul said is, almost a kilometre away from our clubhouse. It would also require land purchase, which hasn't been negotiated at all. And we believe that coming down Webbs Road, which is a long shingle road, would create a lot more maintenance costs than the option that we've proposed.
Do you agree with the life expectancy of Grayson Road?
Sorry?
Do you agree with the life expectancy of the Grayson Road extension? And what, I mean, it sits probably no higher than what the current golf links, I would have thought.
No, it's no higher, but it's much further inland than the present road.
I know it's further in, but it's no higher, is it?
No, but the modelling that your council has prepared to suggest that there could be a small amount of our golf course affected within 30 years, but the bulk of it wouldn't be. So we think 30 to 50 years is appropriate for that one.
Thank you.
Robbie, and I think Chris. Thank you, Robbie.
Just before I ask my question, just there's 4 new councillors that won't know who these two guys are. Paul's an ex-CEO and Bruce is our ex-county engineer. But my question is, I know the golf club's already put a lot of money and time and effort into work around the wetland and designing the road design. But I thought to myself last night, there's a missing link. The Grierson Road goes to the, I'm not sure the number of the hole, the southwestern corner.
Yes.
That comes in.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, hang on, we've still got to get from there to the, probably where your entrance is, to, you know, to join through to the mouth of the river. As the golf link's taken into account, okay, piece of road's got to go through there, presumably it's got to be fenced off with cabling or something for security, so people can't obviously access straight on the golf club. Is the golf link affected what's going to happen there?
Well, yes, that piece of road is golf course land, which we've already said we would donate, and obviously fencing would be required. There's an existing fence between the golf course and the reserve, which would remain, and there'd be a new fence along that section, which has been included in the estimates that we've prepared.
Thank you.
Chris.
So, new councillor Chris Carthy from the West Ward. Nice to meet you, gentlemen. Question I have, it's a bit sideways, you might be surprised with it. What's the average age of your club and how many members do you carry?
We have just on 300 members. I'd say the average age is probably in the high 50s. We don't have too many juniors, unfortunately. And that demographic is probably consistent with most golf clubs in New Zealand, I suspect. But because a lot of those 300 members are retired, that means that we can do a lot of voluntary labour, and that also has been a component of this job too, because we realise that the resource consent requires a lot of planting consent around the wetland, and you know, the golf club members are itching to get involved in that too. So it does come up with a spin off.
Thanks, Dave.
You've heard me before, sort of in the same vein. In the negotiations of the land purchase, is a golf club amenable to the negotiations that it could become the Westbrook Stadium instead of a Moya golf club, having some naming rights, or you know, some sense of trying to get the, you know,
There's not an easy answer to that, but if your concern is how much the land's going to cost, we don't think that's a particularly big component of the cost.
I think
What
we
we've
need to be
calculated,
cautious.
yeah,
We're talking about commercial sensitivity, so I would urge councillors and
it was more of a
consider.
concept.
Yeah, so I think we,
whether the sellers would wish to enter into any other agreements as part of that, that's something sure Hamish knows.
yeah, I think we need to be cautious about having, I mean, I think you've raised that as a concept or a principle before, Dave, and so that could be factored in depending on where this paper leads us today. Yeah. Is there any other questions? Thank you, Vince. I want to draw this in now.
Well, just be good, Paul, to get a copy of, because it's quite a bit of information you've got there, just for the have a look at it.
Yeah, all yours.
Okay, maybe if you email that through to Graham.
Yeah,
Or
still be
no copy, rightio. Did you have a question, Pauline?
I do have a question.
Okay, I want to draw them.
Yeah,
We'll draw the question.
sorry,
this
it's
way.
really procedural, to be honest. You've handed some information in regards to potential purchase pricing, and I understand commercial sensitivity, but given the papers in front of us today, I think it'd be appropriate for councillors to have that information. It's been I mean, it's been provided and I mean, is your intent for us to have that information in order to consider our decision making today?
Again, it's really up to you. I mean, we have discussed in general terms how the land might be valued, which is looking at recent sales, which the council knows, looking at the rating capital and land values, not only the land that we're purchasing part of, but other land that's been subject to council purchases. And from that, we're able to estimate what we think might be a fair price. It's subject to negotiation, and there's all sorts of other factors could come into that. We have no problems if you wish to share that amongst yourselves. I suspect Madam Chair, you probably might go in the committee if you want to do something like that.
100%, and that will be, we will be guided by that. From but I think first and foremost, we've got an open agenda paper in front of us that looks at the full picture, and I think that's probably where you were getting, you know, with that, does that change or substantially
It is,
alter your thinking?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
as a councillor and knowing the papers that are ahead of us today, I do think it would be appropriate for councillors to have access to that information as soon as is possible.
Yeah, so we'll just leave that there, I think, and we'll have a discussion and provide some feedback, maybe after a break or something.
Just add quickly on that, the information and figures are there, are all public available. It's not as though there's anything confidential in terms of that, but I appreciate the need for confidentiality. Talking about a particular landowner.
And it is to protect the landowner
Correct.
as much as it is to protect the commercial activity of the negotiation as well. So there's two sides to that coin that we need to consider at this point.
I've been very careful to
Yeah.
make.
Okay, look at the, oh, sorry, Tom,
Sorry.
I'm trying to wrap this up, yeah.
Really quick question.
Yeah.
Other charities and sports groups have come to us for money and help and support, and they have often borrowed money or contributed themselves to those funds. Is the golf club prepared to contribute towards this so that it doesn't just fall on the ratepayer, but falls on some of the golf club members as well?
I can only repeat what we've said before. Way back, this road was being, more or less in this direction, was being estimated at well over 3 million, and with a very difficult consenting process. The golf club has effectively, with the council staff, managed that process. We got the consent for a fraction of what was originally estimated, and we've done all the other work pretty much ourselves. If we had been paid consultants, a 6-figure cost out there by now. And in addition, we're donating the land. We're not being asked to be paid for the land, we're donating the land. And that's what's going into a public road. It's not a private road for a golf course, it's a public road. It serves a whole lot of purposes as it feeds right round to the Piper River mouth. And it's very well used by a very large number of people. And the end of the time, the golf club has done everything. We don't do any, I don't know whether we've ever received any other grants or anything from the council. We've been self-sufficient and we intend to stay that way, but it's a public amenity, and all sorts of people. The good thing we're finding is how many people we seem to be bringing into the area who are attracted to what most now consider as the best 18-hole golf course in North Canterbury. So I think we've done our bit basically.
What can you who paid for the consent?
The actual fee, we had one.
The council paid.
Council, but yeah, okay, that's what I just wanted to.
But it only
Yeah.
came to a small fraction of what was originally.
Yeah. Okay. So we've been working through this process for a long time, councillors, and I guess that you know, this is a culmination of a lot of work. I want to acknowledge the work that you guys have done on behalf of the golf club, but still, when we sit around this table, you know the responsibility that we have to not only ourselves make the decision in the best interest of our entire community. So I'll just leave you with that. You know that we will be grappling with this as a decision. It's not easy. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I mean, just, yeah.
All right. Yeah, exactly, that's right. Okay, so councillors, we do have in front of us our paper in regard to the Gresham Ave extension. This is a decision item, of course. It is of medium significance, which I'm comfortable with that as a significance perspective. And it's no surprises that this has been going on for a long time, and yeah, so this is Hamish, you have written this paper. You've brought this to our attention. I just want to acknowledge, as I've spoken before, about section 77, about, you know, making sure that we have done sufficient to explore the cost benefit analysis of the option. And I had to write it down, I couldn't remember it, you know, but it was actually about identifying, as a local authority, we must, in the course of its decision making, seek to identify all reasonably practical options for the achievement of the objective of the decision, assess options in terms of advantage and disadvantage, and consider options that have significant decision related to land or body of water. And there was other descriptors there, but I just took the shortcut on that one. So I just, you know, I feel that's really important for us to consider in the context of this decision and the magnitude of it. So I'm going to hand over to you, Hamish, to speak through this paper, and then we'll look at the recommendation that's sitting in front of us on page 70 of this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So at a previous council meeting, council instructed officers to further investigate any reasonable practical options, and so the council is in position to make this decision, and to continue progression of the effective reserve land status and report back to this meeting. So this report focuses on meeting compliance with section 77 of the Act, which is to look at those reasonable practical options, and to put you in a position to make that decision. And there were two parts to that. The first part was what are the other reasonable practical options, which we'd traversed previously, and also consider the Amberley Beach Coastal Adaptation Plan. So this paper sets out how we've done those things, but I'm going to take you right back to the background because you know, I've got new people around the table and the background's important. And I might just quickly chuck up on screen as well, just to make sure that people understand the area that we're talking about. Bear with me for a second here. Once we get there. Very solemn, isn't it?
Yeah.
Another day in paradise.
Yeah. Yes, yes, Carol.
Getting close.
It's easy with a pen and paper, right?
Try and find my screen. So the Amberley Golf Club is this piece of land in here. Current access is through Golf Links Road, which carries on through here. Grierson Avenue comes along here, and the proposed extension basically carries along here, along the high point along here, and then joins up roughly with the Hall Road, goes to there, then goes through the golf club land and connects back through to Golf Links Road again. And the western options are either Double Corner Road, Webbs Road, and along the unformed part of Hursley Terrace Road, or the formation of the whole Hursley Terrace Road. So those are really the three optional pathways that have been considered. There were a whole lot more sort of micro options within those three main areas, but the three main options are the existing road, the Grierson Avenue extension through here, through the golf course, and then back on the Golf Links Road, and Double Corner Webbs, that unformed part of Hursley Terrace Road, and then across the land to the golf club there. So I'll come to questions at the end, Brett. So I'm just giving you a bit of background, as just showing you where those options lie, where they sit. And this has been through a significant process over a long period of time. But essentially, at the 29th of August 23 meeting, the council instructed us to look at option 2D, or some variation of 2D, which was the Grierson Avenue extension. We worked with the golf club through that, and through a resource consenting process to actually get to a point where we've actually got a resource consent and a design for this road. That resource consent was granted on 9th of June 2025. I've met with the owners of the land that we want to go through, and also the trustee of the Waimea 899 Trust, to look for the way forward through both those bits of land, because it crosses both those bits of land in addition to the golf club land. And it also crosses a small piece, as Paul alluded to earlier, of reserve land as well, the Grierson Plantation Recreation Reserve. So we've come up with an estimated total cost of constructing the road, including land purchase. As Paul said, we're not that far away in our view of what it's going to cost to build the road. We weren't at the time that we agreed that. So that's where we are. So in order to discharge our obligations under section 7, we conducted a high-level comparison of the three broad options. That high-level comparison is attached as against 1 to the report. It looks at those three alignments and does a very high-level view of, number one, whether it's a consented pathway, whether it's designed, whether it requires land purchase, what the potential lifespan might be of each of those three options, what the capital cost is of those three options, and what the operational cost is of those three options over a period of time. And so it's a relatively high level review, and then essentially there's a 1, 3, 5 number rating applied to those things, which gives you a rough idea of where they rank. As you can see, they're all pretty close together in their rankings. There's not a huge difference in the rankings. People can argue that 1, 3, 5 is the wrong way to do it. You should do 1, 2, 3. If you do 1, 2, 3, you still come up with exactly the same rankings. If you did, some other variation, unless you chose deliberately numbers to promote one option or the other, it's difficult to see any other ranking than that particular ranking. As I say, they're very close in their rankings. There's not huge significant differences between them. The main advantages of the options are the Grierson Avenue extension is already consented and designed, and so it could be implemented quite quickly. The advantages of the existing alignment is that it doesn't require any land purchase, and the advantages of the western alignment are its lifespan and its lower operational cost. So each one of these three options has different advantages and disadvantages, which lead to there being not a significant difference in the overall ranking of those three options. So it's my view that given the work that we had done earlier to identify options and looking at those options under those three broad categories, that satisfies the requirement 777 to do a comparison of those options. The other bit of work that ended up being very simple indeed was that we looked at the Amberley Beach coastal adaptation plan. There's a trigger in that plan about capital works there, and whether that would trigger a review of the plan. We wrote to the Amberley Beach Residents Association, and they provided us with a letter saying, in their view, number one, they support the Grierson Avenue extension option, and in their view, there's no need to review, do a trigger review under the cap because that was really satisfied. So obviously this work has no budget and has never had any budget. So all the work we've done so far has been in the governance budget largely, and officer time has been soaked up in this. It's highly unlikely that there will be NZTA subsidy funding available for this, is the indications that we have. If funding was available, it would come out of the existing budget, which would mean not doing other works to allow this bit of work to be done. So no new money from NZTA. We could seek external funding, and I'll put a link to the council policy on unformed legal roads, because in that policy, this isn't necessarily an unformed legal road, but policy says that the cost will be borne by the applicants or the formation of any unformed legal road. So it's not directly related, but it was instructive, I guess, of council's policy direction overall. But of course, you are not bound by policy. Oh yeah, and that ABRAC letter was attached as appendix 2. So Grierson Avenue extension was the council's preferred option. It's the one they wanted the effort put into. We'll put the effort into it. It's to this point, and it's now at a point where you can make a decision about it.
That's cool. So delivery dates on these, obviously looking at the Western, they'd be quite expensive and long drawn out. Roughly, what do we know what the Grierson extension term of time would be from beginning to end? And it being the weather's on our side, we don't have any major events occur.
It's a relatively simple construction. I haven't got a timeline drawn up for the construction yet. When it's done, I mean, it's a significant bit of work. We'll go out for tender for it, so there'll be a tender process to get through.
And that will take time-wise, normal.
Yeah, it's unlikely that we get the tender out before Christmas, so it'll be after Christmas. By the time we get that prepared, it might go out over the Christmas period if we manage to hit some targets. It will be open for a certain period of time, probably that period during January when the contractors aren't looking at tenders, so we need to make sure we get a good price. So yeah,
Okay, so
unlikely that we'll be starting in February.
so it's we'll just it's supported in the paper and it's follow normal council
Yeah, it
process.
needs to follow the proper procurement process.
Yeah, there'll be no deviation from that process.
But we are in the fortunate position that
Yeah.
it's designed and consented, and that will speed it up considerably compared to other options.
I've got a few more questions to clarify. Pauline, and then I think Chris, so thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Through the chair. So, Hamish, what is the status of the affected reserve land? You know, in the 30th of September meeting, there was a resolution passed to continue progression of lifting that reserve status. Can you update us as to what that status is and whether that is likely to have an impact on the timeline?
Potentially, but we think that we might be able to find a way through this by license to occupy of that preserved land rather than getting the reserve status lifted, because getting the reserve status lifted is a long and complex process. So we think there's a better, faster, cheaper option if we can make it work. But I'm not guaranteeing that that's the case. I'm just saying it's something that we've
So you've made a start to that
Yeah.
in the hopes that this is all gonna fold in together as in a timely and appropriate manner.
Can I
Yeah.
another question,
Yeah.
not subsequent because
Yeah.
it's completely different. Just in regards to the high level consideration, you've used the 1, 3, 5 ranking.
Yep.
Can you just define for me, and I guess for anybody who's watching, like what specifically is a 1, what is a 3, what is a 5? And also additionally, in regards to the capital cost, we know the cost of the proposed Grierson Ave extension, and we have an estimate of the existing in the Western. What are those estimates?
Yes, they're estimates.
Yeah, but what are they? Can you give us, so that I can understand how that ranking of 1, 3, 5 fits into in financial speak, I guess?
So 1, 3, 5, 1 is low or simple, 3 is moderate, and 5 is more difficult. So it's a subjective, I guess, look at those things. The costs, as it's stated there, the existing alignment and the Western alignment are estimates, whereas the Grierson Avenue extension is a much more known figure because the design work's being done. The existing alignment is an estimate based on road engineer looking conceptually at some work on there and saying this would buy us something around a 10-year window. So the road engineers had a look at that and said this is roughly what I think. So it's an estimate. Likewise, the Western alignment is also an estimate, and that was done some time ago. That estimate, when we originally looked at these and estimated what the costs would be. So if you remember back in 23, when we were looking at the various options, we had an estimate of what that Western alignment cost. We had an estimate of Grierson Ave extension, and we didn't really look at the existing alignment.
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to form a picture in my mind, and for transparency of how we get to a high, as in maybe a 5, compared to what a 1 is in dollar terms, I guess. Yeah, like what is the difference between 1.4 million at a 5 and a 1 at what cost? I mean, there's no, it's very abstract, but thank you for the answer anyway.
Yeah, that's cool. Thanks, Pauline. I want to go to Chris and then Chris.
Madam Mayor, a number of questions, obviously just coming into us a bit new and not knowing all the background to it. So yeah, a couple of questions on it. But firstly, just on that high level consideration, if somebody had an answer just why the Western alignment was a low operating cost going forward and the Grierson Ave extension was a medium, what if they were both new roads? The operating costs long term would be similar.
Yep. So number one, the existing alignment, because of the continuing attack by the sea, is the highest cost option to maintain. So low capital cost, high maintenance cost. If you look at the alignment of the Grierson Avenue extension, it's got the potential over time to be destabilised by seawater entering the lagoon. And so there is potential cost on that, whereas the western alignment is higher again, and you know, so it's potentially a lower cost option. Noting that part of that western alignment does go by the Waipa River though, and there is potential for inundation from there, but overall it looks in general terms to be a lower cost option.
If you look at the lay of the land in that northern adjacent to the Waipa, it's about 4 metres above sea level, and down at the culvert it's about 1 point something, or is that can you evaluate, give us an evaluation on that?
The looking at the LiDAR data, the Grierson Avenue foundation level is under the 2.5 metre mark most of the way. The Hursley Terrace option is just under the 6 metre ASL mark, so it's a higher up option.
And I guess it's getting that engineering and the capital cost right, so we're not having ongoing issues.
Yeah, so
you know, that's my concern is we don't want something that's going to end up costing us money down the track because it hasn't been done right.
So we pursued an option of choosing one of the multiple options and saying let's do the work on this option because we think this is a likely option, and the Grierson Ave extension was chosen by the council as the likely option. And work's been done on that to progress it, and so now we're just looking retrospectively and saying how's that stacked up comparatively.
So that sort of leads to my next question. Sorry. So when this was looked at, was there a figure in mind that this Grierson Ave option was going to cost, and has that changed to what we've got now?
Yes, the Grierson Ave option has decreased in price considerably because consenting costs have been considerably lower, and the design costs have been considerably lower due to the input of the golf club.
And one last question, sorry, just and I'm sure this has been talked about in the past, and as I say, it's sort of the big picture thing which I'm assuming was sort of talked about at the start. Like, it's a lot of money to be spent on one small road, and also, no offence to the golf club, but it is a small number of people, and as you say, we've got to look at it from a whole Huranui Council district point of view, and putting that much money into a small area, and I'm assuming those discussions have been had earlier on. So yeah, what was there sort of an outcome?
Yeah, Chris, it would be fair to say that that has been a consideration of this council. Whilst there is a desire to, you know, to facilitate the option for the best possible option for access to an amenity that is an important amenity to the district, there's no getting away from that. It is something that we have been challenged with all the way, because we wouldn't still be grappling with this decision if it was easy and, you know, would have been done 12 months ago, which probably would have pleased the golf club no end. But we've been grappling with the factor of considering what is the best outcome, both financially and from a well-being perspective, you know, where someone can, you know, socially and activity and recreation, all those things. So balancing that up, and what is the difference to that, and how we can get the best outcome, and that's why we're grappling with it.
And that is still the issue at hand on that issue.
Yeah, I think
And just further on that one, Murray, I mean, we've got to remember that this doesn't only provide access to the golf club.
No,
A lot of
true.
other primary users, you know, there's a heap of users that are going to the river now, that are going to the beach or the northern beach. And there is the 1 Mile Hire 899 Trust there as well as a landowner. So just need to keep that in the back of our mind as well.
Yeah.
okay. I think I've got a question coming from Chris, and then I go to Steve, and then go to Tom. So and then Brett, radio. Oh, now I've got to remember that.
Yeah. Madam Mayor, through the chair. Quick question to Hamish. In regards to the figure number presented, have we QS'd and estimated that on the design theory of the preferred option?
So the golf club had an engineer go through it and come up with their engineer's estimate. We've been through it and come up with our engineer's estimate. They're very close.
So no QS, but it's an engineer's quote. So, okay, thank you.
Oh, thanks, Steve. Your turn.
Yeah, Madam, just observation, if I may. It was really good to be invited down to look at this boots on the ground and to walk around and familiarise myself with this. And I guess this addresses some of the points that have already been raised here. There is a considerable expense to go out to get this done. However, there is potentially huge input for not just this small golf club and that community. I think it's been mentioned that this was used by lots of people. When I was down there being shown around, there were lots of walkers, dog walkers, people using the beach. And there is a potential considerable benefit for our wider community if we take this recommendation. It's just an observation I'd like to make in terms of the broader community impact.
Yeah. There's no getting away from that, Steve. We understand that, we understand that, but on wider brief, but yeah,
If I may, I didn't until I went there and had a look at it personally, so it was really useful.
Thank you. Hi, and then Brett.
Thank you very much. And my concerns have always been the expected life of the road and the options. Can you give an estimate of the potential life of the golf course itself, bearing in mind that coastal change could happen there? And we could end up building a road that would last 30 to 60 years or 30 to 50 years, sorry. But if there is no destination, because that has actually been inundated, is that a potential? Is it a potential that the golf course may not exist, that the road would, there is no golf course of 18 holes still in existence?
I've got an email from the president of the golf club who says they have a plan as to how they will deal with any impact on them as far as retaining themselves largely in position.
So would that involve them requiring defences and maybe even a bund like the?
That's not part of their plan.
So can we put an estimate on the potential life of the golf course in that position there?
I'm reluctant to do that. The golf course is not like a residential setting where you've got people living there. So the golf course may be able to be more resilient in dealing with the impacts, the transitory impacts of some of these events. So I'd be reluctant personally to do that. I haven't done any work to have a look at the life of the golf club. We know that it's eroding along that beach, and that as you go along the beach to the north there, the erosion is more significant. But there is some land in the road before it starts encroaching on the golf club. So yeah, I don't know.
And I guess if we come back to the paper that we've got in front of us, there's actually consideration of there be sort of a road access to the golf course that you're talking about in this case, but their resilience or their risk factors around that probably sits with the golf club.
Yeah.
We need to consider our longevity of our investment in that sort of scale, I guess is what we're talking about. Yeah.
But I'm reluctant for the council to spend money on a project that has a resilience of 30 to 50 years, when the destination might only have a resilience of 10 to 20 years, in which case, just an observation.
Yeah, thank you, Brett.
Through the chair, my question, I guess, might even be a moot point, but was it, and this is more to enable me to answer questions later on as to all options being explored, was it considered extending the bund and keeping the existing road as it currently is?
Yes, there is under the bund consent the ability to extend the bund, but where at the northern end of the bund there, due to the alignment of the road, it protrudes out into the marine area more, and is going to be under more severe action from waves than further back in the village. So, and you see that at the northern end of the bund already. So one option is to build the bund in the alignment of the road, and put the road on top of the bund, but it still sticks out more, to the east, so it's still going to be subject to that action. So, but yeah, I mean that's part of the options for the existing alignment.
Your hand up, Dave? Yep.
Yeah, through the chair. I know we're talking about the risk of the life of the road, and to me, the alternatives are the cost of moving the golf course to the golf course and to them. But Hamish, have we not got a lot of other roads that in a medium term are a lot more high risk of causing long-term costs to the council, and we're still maintaining them? So I'm sort of asking, is this any different than like Sumner Road, or any different than Clavely Road, or whatever, And there's an existing road there. It's come to its end of its supposed life. We're looking at an alternative. So we could be faced with the same dilemma with Lake Sumner Road.
Yeah, but we have a number of roads, particularly coastal roads, where we do have the same issues. So Conway Flat Road, Clavely Road, Nappy Nap Road, for example, are all roads that we've had to spend money on due to coastal inundation over the last few years, or storm surge. So yeah, and there's a number of other roads in the district that potentially could suffer from the same issues. So Cathedral Road to Gorvey, or Gorvey Road at the other end, both potentially may have issues in the future.
I suppose my question is that not a reason not to do it? Because we've got our best.
That's for you to decide.
Yeah. Okay. I guess that we have explored all the questions in regard to the paper that we've got in front of you. Hopefully understand better the history of how we've got to this position. We do have in front of us a recommendation on page 70. And of course, I'm in your hands, councillors, as you have assessed and understood this impact of the Gresham Ave extension, both from a monetary perspective, but also the provision of access to the golf club, the reserve, the Waipara Beach area, so they are factors that you need to weigh up in your mind as we consider the recommendation that we have in front of us. So if there's no further questions, I'm willing to receive a recommendation, and then we'll see where that gets us. So I'll just need to check, is this a question or a statement? Or
just a question to Hamish. Grayson Avenue, how high above the tide zone is it, the whole road? I'm looking at the whole length, not just the extension, but because if we have to protect it, it'll be the whole road.
Are you talking about Gresham Ave as it currently is in the village, and the extension you're looking for? How high above sea level is that currently sitting? Is that what you're talking?
And what's the spring tide height?
Okay.
It's around 2.5 all the way along there, slightly above on that full part, but around that 2.5 metre mark. So similar to the alignment that's proposed.
Satisfy you? So I'm going to go to you, Robbie. I'm not sure whether you're looking at taking some action, or
Sort of. Yes, yeah, I think.
Whatever sort of means, I'm happy to receive it.
Well, probably a couple of comments, and then probably back to the future, but really. To me, we've been looking at this for 3 years, and we really have thrashed it about. I shudder to think what the cost of that's been actually, but 3 years we've been working on it. The golf clubs, with working with the council, we've managed to, I think we're less than half than the original estimate of what any of the options would cost. We've talked about spring tides and things, and I'm sort of thinking, I see this road, and I presume it's in the engineering design, to be a basic shingle road, it's going to be raised a certain amount for it to get a lifespan out of it. But we're not talking about putting in a 2-lane highway or anything down there. We've never talked about, well, we have talked about, but we've never taken the option of, in the past, of doing something into a long-term plan or annual plan. We've kind of known that something had to happen, but we've never sort of started to put some money towards that for one reason or the other. But I'm just probably a question to governance, really. If I go back to the future and go back to number 6 on page 71, there's a resolution there, and that's kind of where I'm sitting now. We've gone down further with it since that, but this resolution said that the council instruct officers to commence the resource consent application process for Grayson Ave extension option in alignment with negotiations for securing a sale and purchase agreement with them for the mile land, being subject to the consent being achieved. And then the second part, and this is probably more questions, the report will provide the next meeting regarding how to fund the project. So that's still up for discussion for me. I know that it's now debt funded. I don't know whether or not that would qualify as being, if we're not going to get anything from NZTA or whatever, whether that is qualified for any of that relocation money or CLS money, whatever you want to call it, the facility that we've been given, or just as I see Selwyn has managed to trim off 18 million or something off their next budget and get down. What in effect we'd be asking is, okay, our next annual plan, even if we okay debt today or whenever, we'd be looking potentially our next annual plan as to, okay, how does that affect that? I think this is core business. I think we would have to just cut our suit there. We'd have to work to what we had. It's more than the golf course, but having said that, the golf course is a big part of Amberley Township and the growth and why people come and live here, retire here and whatever. So to me, where I'm sitting is, and I don't know if it's still live on the table and will be revoted again, not quite sure of the mechanics of that, but where I'm sitting at the moment is back at number 6.
Yes, you can answer that, Hamish, but the resource consent application has been achieved as far as that goes.
Sorry, Roy.
Yeah.
Well, okay. What I'm meaning there is about the reserve.
So yeah.
So we have to change that.
Yeah. So that's what that we've already talked about. That there's a wee slither of land on the reserve that needs, and that's what Hamish was speaking about before. That there may be an easier, quicker, cheaper pathway to cut off that slither of dock land that we're currently as part of this process. The consent is alive and active, so that's been done. And really, I guess what today's talking about is, you know, there has been some engineering being done on how the road could be constructed, and it's the negotiation is what we're looking at, and I think that's what the recommendation is helping to progress today.
Yeah, I took that as a reserve. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I'm looking at number 6 with changing resource consent to reserve status.
I'm relatively comfortable from a governance perspective that actually, you know, the impact of what you're referring to in number 6 has been achieved as we work through. You want to add anything to that?
No, I mean, number 6 was 2023.
Yeah.
We've done those things.
Yeah.
I know we're hinting at, Robbie, that you want us to commence the reserve process. We've already commenced that. That's, I mean, we've had some discussions on that. We're looking at 2 pathways at the moment. We're looking for the easiest pathway. So
I guess I'm saying any purchase would be subject to that being able, otherwise we wouldn't be able to get across to it.
Yeah, that's right. One part of the process is contingent on the other, really. You know, we need to just step through one process to get the whole package completed. So I think you're correct. One thing does hinge on the other as far as that goes. Yeah, does that? Are you clear in your mind there where number 6 sits? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
in essence of moving along, I'm happy to move it, if we move. Graham will come up with it, you know, the next step is land purchase agreement and then support the recommendations to move ahead with it.
Okay, I'm gonna come back to you because Pauline had a hand up, so I just don't know where you might got to contribute here. I don't want anyone to go away thinking I wish they'd said something, this is a big issue.
Yeah, sure, look, I was about to move a resolution as well. But can I just check one further piece of information? Hamish, in your report, you've referred us back to the unsealed roads policy and the statement in there that you know, costing falls back to the applicant. In this case, if I was going to move something in regards to debt funding, does that open up a section 80 requirement in regards to not adhering to policy? That feels like a very loose connection.
No, I don't think it does. I mean, it's explicit in here that is contemplated. Reopen.
So do you want?
Okay. You carry on because I've got.
Yeah, no, I was
going
going to move something, but I sensed that Dave was as well, and
Yeah,
I
okay,
just procedurally, I'll let you.
Chris.
Sorry, just to clarify, as I say, sorry, just
Yeah, no,
coming in,
it's
just,
cool.
to clarify on that debt funding, obviously this is funded by debt, just where, obviously debt needs repaid, and just where is that sort of coming from?
So the debt funding, the debt would sit in the roading account. It would be funded by ratepayers, not by NZTA. So there'd be an increase in the roading rate district-wide for this.
And just probably for clarity, particularly, regardless of whether it was in an annual plan or a long-term plan, it would always be a factor of debt anyway, you know, so it's not, if it was in the annual plan or the long-term plan, it would still need to be debt funded.
Yes, I understand it, but it is basically just going to be a general rate through riding for the whole community.
Yeah, across the district. Yeah. All right. I'm probably going to go back to you, Dave, and then there might be some synergy around there. So,
Madam Mayor, could I just take it back to the officer recommendation before somebody moves it? What we're is to provide direction on the proposed extension of Grierson Ave, provide that access, reducing that rights on Golf Links Road. So
you just want some direction on.
I mean, if you say go ahead with this, then just say go ahead with it. If you say don't go ahead with it, then tell us what you want.
what's yours, Dave?
So I suppose what we're saying, moving is that we want to go ahead with the Grierson Ave Avenue option, isn't it, really? And all the mechanics behind it with the debt funding, is that all you need, Dave? That's all I'm hearing. So that's all I'm moving in direction that we go ahead with it, and my basis from it is we've been at this for 3 years. It's core business. It's providing a road to something that's actually used by a lot of the people in the district. So it ticks those boxes to me. And just get on and do it, because the longer we keep doing it, it's just going to get more expensive and cause more grief. And I know it's going to be debt funded.
So, do you want to tell us what you've written there, Graham?
Give us some.
Let's use the wording.
On the recommendation?
Just that the council approves the proposed extension of Grierson Avenue to provide a resilient alternative access route to Amberley Golf Club and adjacent areas, reducing reliance on Golf Links Road, which is vulnerable to coastal hazards.
Okay, so rightio, that's on page 70 of your report. I am calling for a seconder.
Yes, I'm happy to second that. I just wondered if we needed to note in that resolution, and that it be funded from debt for clarity.
We can add that. Are you happy for that?
Yep.
Clarification to be added? I think it's be explicit in the limits, but yeah, I'm happy with that. So Dave's happy to add the debt funding and you're happy to second that. I'm happy to just to check in with everybody. I am going to put that motion. You understand the intent of the motion?
Okay, are we going to have an opportunity to speak for it?
Can you just let me finish? Yeah, I'll let you do that. Yeah.
So, just a clarification in the motion, wouldn't there be something subject to a successful negotiation on a price? That's, or, I don't know, because I know we've got to have a discussion on that later on, so we're not just sort of saying, absolutely, it must be.
So the price that we're looking at, the 1.4, takes into account the landowner expectations for the purchase of that land.
So sorry, Madam Mayor, just to clarify, because we do have some discussion later on. We have not yet had a discussion on where what we may or may not be.
So once again, I'll state it, that the 1.4 million takes into account, I'm confident within that 1.4 million envelope, we can purchase the land and build the road. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to spend 1.4 million.
Okay.
But what it means is that it's an envelope that you've approved that we can purchase the land and build the road.
But the clarity is that there is 1.4 million dollars that's identified here that is sufficient to complete the task from here to there, and that is what we're seeking. But there needs to be some, procurement process and actual costing on that. There'll be some other incidental costs that will come into that, but it's anticipated that that is the total cost, or anything under that will be a benefit to
And
everyone.
Madam Mayor, can I just caution councillors not to get into the land purchase price issue while we're in public discussion?
Correct, yeah, correct. So I think we're just looking at a high level. We can progress this, and this is the intention of this committee, assuming that is where this gets.
Chair, thank you. Have we now 1.4 considered contingencies as well?
Yes.
Thank you. That was my concern. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Are we up for a bit of discussion on it now, or because it just concerns me a bit, because we're actually going to, in our plans, we're moving the infrastructure from Amberley Beach. We bought land and everything in here. We're going against that by putting infrastructure into the sort of, could call it the red zone. And it just worries me long term and our planning and everything, how we're going against ourselves in doing this. So I'm just, it's not like I'm against the golf course ring, I'm just asking questions of us around this table, how we can 1 minute be doing this here and the other minute doing this here. Where do we reconcile it all? That's just where I'm coming in. And I'm asking a question of you guys.
Okay, we've got a mover and we've got a seconder. I am going to apply standing orders, thank you, and allow you to make statements. Standing orders normally would be that you have 3 people could speak for, 3 people could speak against the position as it stands at the moment. A recommendation that has been moved and seconded with the increased understanding that councillors have that the envelope is as discussed on page 71, but I would be expecting the CE to be driving something less than that we can. If this is going to be achieved, it needs to be achieved in the smallest size envelope possible, because that will affect the rest of our rate. That is the pressure, that is the tension that we're placing on the rest of our ratepayers in our district. Okay. Are we happy? So if I'm happy to receive, what's the word? Speaking for, yeah, okay, thank you. So happy to receive those statements of your intention to speak for or against that recommendation. It's yours, Robbie.
Yeah, look, I'll speak for, without trying to repeat myself, but I am aware that of the work that's gone before and the cost to date and the cost savings that have been made, you know, with the two sides, not two sides, of course, but with the golf and the council working together to this point. But I also like, you know, we're at the start of a new triennium here, and there's half the table are new. We don't know what's gone before. I think it's fair to say, if I was to be as bold as to speak for councillors of past, that on the whole, there's been a will to get this done for at least the last triennium.
Thank you.
My view.
Okay, I'll go to you, Pauline.
Yeah,
I'll
thank
come
you.
to you guys. Yep.
Look, I'm going to speak in favour of the resolution, obviously, given that I second it. Look, this is an issue that has been well traversed right back from November 2022. All of the options and their advantages and disadvantages, as noted by Hamish, have been well traversed, well considered, and we meet our Section 77 requirements. The ongoing continued maintenance of the current access north of Amberley Beach settlement is unsustainable, and to have access offers value, like a wide value for not only our immediate community, but the district as a whole, and this option is providing a positive solution. I'd just note that in regards to the debt funding, you know, I did raise in the annual plan discussions that I felt that it would be irresponsible not to make provision there, and was assured that not making provision at that time wouldn't hinder the process moving forward. There is precedent in regards to Cleverly, as an example, where you know, we committed $500,000 to maintain access for 3 residents. And so I see this on a similar level. I think the cheapest time to do it is today. And I feel that we have good information, that we have questioned, we have explored, we have traversed, and I'm confident with moving forward with the Grierson Road extension at this time.
Thank you, Pauline.
Yeah, I also would like to speak for this recommendation as well. The previous council have set very clear instruction to council officers. They have addressed that quite fully in this recommendation. The purpose of this recommendation is for us to look at whether we choose the Grierson Road Avenue, whether we do nothing, whether we choose the western side. I believe that the Grierson Avenue, as recommended, is the best option for us to resolve this issue for the golf club. It provides the best possible future proofing for our community down there within the golf side of things, and also for residents within that area. It provides great opportunities for us in the future, covering the reserve area, also linking into potential with Hurunui trails and trusts. There are great benefits for us to make a decision on this and to actually get something moving in line with the recommendation. So I fully support what's been said already.
Yeah, I've heard from 3 speaking in support. Is there anybody who would like to speak against the motion as we see it? I'm hearing from you, Chris.
Thank you through the chair. For me, from the West Ward, I see that in regards to the Clavely thing, New Zealand Rail assisted in the costings of that. And when we look across over at this, I worry about a couple of elements. One is cost blowout. The other part too is what was noted by Councillor Daly in regards to the community being moved out of that area later on. I understand the implications for social and environmental, albeit sports linkage, but for us to commit more debt to our council, or to our ratepayers, sorry, I apologise, more debt to our ratepayers for this road to go through. By the way, I play the course as well, and I know it. I think that it's pouring more money down a hole later on that we aren't going to be using in the 15 to 20 year cycle when we move people from the beach up to the new development that is proposed. I worry about us putting council into more debt for something that's only in the middle of 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Any other councillors? Thank you, Tom.
In a similar vein, I am concerned that we build a road to nowhere, that the life of the golf course may be shorter than the life of our road is my first concern. My second concern is the mixed messages that we are portraying to our community. We've recently borrowed 23.5 million to relocate Amberley Village because we feel that the life of that village is not sustainable. And on the one hand, we are prepared to move the village because we see that that coast is not going to withstand storm and erosion, and yet a few hundred meters away we are going to build a road that is potentially going to last 30 to 50 years, and so for that reason I will be abstaining.
Abstaining. Not voting, yeah. Anybody else like to speak against the motion as it stands?
I suppose you heard my piece earlier, and I just confirmed that. And what's national policy statements on things like this? Is there a government directive that, you know, we put infrastructure, new infrastructure into areas that could be dated by the sea in years to come? I just trying to work that through. I know we have to give access to the golf course. That's a given, but it's just working out how you do it long term.
I'm not sure any policy statements. I mean, there's a variety of issues coming through, but
There's a recently released national adaptation plan, but it's more policy guidance than specific structure. I mean, policy wise says that you shouldn't be putting people into risk areas, and there needs to be a national risk map that will help find you know, where those areas where you shouldn't be doing new development, but it doesn't specifically provide direction in the circumstance.
anybody else would like to speak in favour? I'm going to put this motion. So we've got an understanding of what the recommendations tells us. In relation to progressing the extension of Gresham Ave, with access to the golf club and adjacent areas, which is the Waipara River and mouth and the Wainana Reserve, and that we understand the pricing structure, I guess, of how that's going to work. So with that, I will put the motion. All in favour to this motion, please raise your hand. That's 5. Those against? Those abstaining?
Sorry, those hands again.
Abstaining. So here's my ruling. I prefer not to cast my vote in this instant, and my reasons for that is that this is a very this is a big issue for our district, and but with that, the recommendation is carried by majority. Thank you for that. I do want to thank officers who have spent a lot of work. It is not surprising to me that this is a tight vote situation. I do have a sense of comfort, but actually a sense of discomfort as well. And that is mostly around the discussion that I've heard on many, many occasions across the district around debt and managing debt. But I can balance that with the fact that we need to provide value and amenity value to our district. So we have worked this through, we have managed the risk, and we've taken on some risk at the same time. Okay, so I am going to read that discussion.
Madam Mayor, can I just ask those voting against, would you like your votes recorded?
Yes, please.
Their names are being. Yep.
Thank you.
All right, you'll give them Graham a bit of direction. Righty-go, thank you. Okay, that is our first paper for the day. Thank you, Hamish. I'm thinking what I would like to do is break for morning tea now. I think it's probably appropriate that we do that, and we do need to come back in and look at the elected members' expense and policy and allowance policy that Jason will speak to, but something you want to add? No. Perhaps we will break for, I'd like you back in the room here at 10:40, so 10 minutes out for morning tea. Okay. Okay. Bring your morning tea back. I'm really conscious of the time, and we do need to keep moving. So I forgot to do it earlier at the front of the end of the agenda, and Grace got to get the deputation going. Anyway, it's my understanding that some councillors have got requests of leave, requests that they would like to put in. For those of you that are new around the table, that you put on your leave of absence, you don't need to tell us, you know, you're away and you're doing whatever, but you just need to give us an indication, so that particularly if it's over a period where there are scheduled meetings. So and they need to be moved and seconded and supported by council, that leave of absence will be granted. So thank you, Dave. I'll get you to kick off in your areas.
For next week's presentation meeting, so it's Tuesday.
Second.
I'm not sure if I need a leave of absence, or I could get a sabbatical, because I will be riding on on my motorbike on a lot of roads, so I could be auditing for you, so I'm not sure if I need a leave of absence.
Can you fill a few potholes?
We may not even
Of Southland and Central Otago.
Okay, so you're ready. Okay, we'll do that. And I think Tom has sorted his, and so Pauline perhaps, and then I'm going to Steve. Is that right? Yep, Pauline.
Yes, so I've given the dates to Graham, and mine is leave of absence during April 2026, so a bit of time.
That's good. Thank you. And Steve.
Yeah, I may well actually just need to be an apology on the day. So 16th of December on our final council meeting, I need to leave earlier.
Yeah.
So by 12:30 on the 16th, I need to be.
Okay, so it might be just an apology for leave, early departure on the 16th. So we'll get that recorded and remember. The rest of you are going to work hard for the next couple of months. That's good. So we've got those leave of absences recorded. Someone like to move, someone like to second that we've received that. Thanks, Brett. Thank you, Chris, Kathy. All in agreement with that, please say aye. Aye. Okay, that's carried, thank you. My apologies for that, guys. But we have in front of us, this paper that came to our last meeting around the elected members' expense and allowance policy. Council Laws asked Jason to bring this back, and has duly done so today, so thank you for that prompt turnaround. I know you've got your mind on a whole lot of other things, but you've achieved this, so well done. So perhaps if you'd just like to, just step us through it, I think it's pretty well set out, and we could move through this one. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yes, so at the last council meeting on the 4th of November, the primary requirement there was to set the remuneration that's duly been sent on to the Remuneration Authority, and I'm hoping for the updated determination to come through for Christmas and adjustments to the relevant salaries. The other component of it was the expense and allowance policy. Now previously we have excluded the provision for childcare allowance and the new home security system allowance, but I suppose based on comments from councillors, I have amended the policy to allow for those, but with a bit of context provided around it. So page 77 just gives provided the extract from the determination from the Remuneration Authority, specifically there, and then just break the two components down into individual bits. So the childcare allowance, there is a maximum of $7,500 per child per annum. However, there are a number of conditions that need to be met, and I've got those listed again on the top of page 78. That member that's claiming for childcare needs to be the parent or guardian who usually has responsibility for that child, for the day-to-day care of the child. Child is under 14 years of age, and if there is childcare provided, it needs to be a person other than another parent or spouse or civil union partner of the member, and can't be somebody that lives at the house, so it can't be grandma that lives in the granny flat out the back. And then there needs to be evidence that the payment has been made for the claim to be approved. And again, I'm just trying to provide some context. When this allowance was first provided in 2019, the Remuneration Authority, the RA, provided that the amount would be $15 per hour, and that the allowance shall be paid for a maximum of 8 hours in any 24-hour period, and then can't exceed $6,000 per annum. Those numbers have obviously increased to $7,500 per annum per child. So the applicable rate, if we extrapolate the numbers out, would be $18.75 per child. So I suppose if the council was of the view to make provision for it in the expense and allowance policy, the administration of that allowance will, as with all other allowance payments, particularly mileage or travel time allowances, falls back to myself as the CFO to consider whether that claim is reasonable. And again, the basis of that will be on the guidance that the RA has provided. If there is a claim made, just the funding source of any allowances will be the same funding source as that member's salary. So if it was councillor, that funding source would be the governance rates, would be just added on to the cost of the governance cost centre, which is entirely funded from the governance rate. But if it is a Hammer Springs Community Board member, then the salary for for that comes from the Hannah Springs Amenities Rate, and likewise for the Southwood Community Board, if there is a claim, it would be included as a cost to the Southwood. And I suppose a wee bit of a catch-all, and it is the same in the home security allowance policy, that it is up to me to determine whether it's reasonable, and I have been described as being a tight ass, so
It's not for you, David.
Yeah.
If there is, if it is unreasonable, there just needs to be a, and there's a potentially a dispute between myself and the member, that the fallback will be that it will be reviewed by the Board and the Risk Committee.
And that would be for the childcare allowance as well as the home security allowance as well. So, you know,
exactly.
it's not as if it's one or the other, it's for both.
For both, yeah, and
Indiscretion, yeah.
So just moving on to the, I'm happy to answer any questions specifically about the childcare allowance first off, and then we can move to the home.
That's cool. Tom, is it about childcare?
I'm really, really pleased that this has been included. There are 2 points that I would like to make. Is firstly, I'm disappointed that it's below the minimum wage. I would have thought that it should be at minimum wage or even living wage, but that is by the by. Principle is important. The other point that I would raise is that I think it's unlikely that most of us here do have children under age 14, but I wonder also if it could be extended to those of us who may be looking after elderly relatives as well, and may need care allowance payable if you are caring and looking after an elderly relative. Parents, I was thinking.
No, I understand the question. There is currently there is no provision under the determination for that, so it would exceed any maximums that are allowable currently. This was specifically for childcare allowance. So
It's set by the remuneration authority.
and I've got no
we've got
no way of changing that. But components of the allowances do change over time, and that may well be an issue for councillors moving forward, but currently,
Is it not possible for us to dare to be different and to include it into this policy? Our own individual policy?
We can have our own individual policy, but we cannot exceed any of the maximums that are allowed for under the Remuneration Authority's determination. So that's why it can't be allowed for now, but in the fullness of time that may well change. You know, this is only childcare allowance has only been in place for 6 years, and after a lot of lobbying previously from affected members, and could well be with a growing aging population may well be an issue.
And I think, sorry, Fiona, I think pressure, you know, for the inclusion of a childcare policy was really about brought to councils, went through the remit process several years ago to consider and encourage younger members to sit around the council table. So I think it's important to understand what is the history of this allowance and incorporating into a policy for individual councils. So I think my opinion is that we're probably just sort of stepping outside of the intent of this, which really was, you know, to encourage young people that might have young children under age 14 and continue to encourage them to sit around the table and be at a government level. So I think that probably is the history, really. Yeah. Sorry, Fiona.
Just in support of Tom, I guess, I understand where it came from, and I understand it's about the drive to get to specify younger people. But actually, I tend to agree with Tom, and I think I raised time, it's not just older people, because you can be relatively young without older parents, but also disability. and there's a lot of people who care for all sorts of things at home. So, and it's making it more accessible to more people. And I don't think that you should only be looking at an age group. We're all encourage younger people to come in and carry on through, but I do think that there's an argument to be made that with a bit of support to look after somebody, you've got more accessibility across the board. I think I made the point back in the day when we were first discussing it as well.
So maybe that's, if there is a real desire, maybe she might be able to help find me here on this one. But it could be something that a remit is put in front of, conference, and see if there is a wider understanding across New Zealand to consider it through the Remuneration Authority, because that's probably how this childcare thing started as well.
Yeah, I mean, you've got two avenues. Number one, you can go directly to the Remuneration Authority and suggest it and see what the response is. And number two, you can try and see whether there's an appetite for it nationally.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe that, I'm just conscious of today's pressure. Sorry, so perhaps the intent of the discussion we've heard, it might be that you can be a driver or an advocate for that at another time as we journey through this. But I think if we stay to what we're looking at here today, I'd be more comfortable.
I've got to remember it's coming from the ratepayer in this.
I agree, and I think we raised that last month when we spoke about this, that this is directly related to a ratepayer, and if all of this was actually applied for, it's kind of almost 0.5% on our rates, in total. So, we need to think about that, but the intent is to be encouraging, to supportive, and to have a policy particularly around this new home security business that enables elected members to feel safe in their environment, I guess is the intent. Any other questions of Jason? Righty?
Well, I go through the home security system allowance, there's some information that the authority have provided. I think that's probably been provided to yourselves previously. The determination provides for a new allowance. The council will need to seek a security threat and risk assessment, and then based on that assessment, council may reimburse the expenses of having a security system installed and monitored. Again, the maximum is $4,500 for installing the system, and then $1,000 per annum for monitoring call outs and repairs. But there is a mechanism if there is a risk security threat and risk assessment determines that a higher level of security system is required, then will be funded by that $4,500. There is the ability for council to apply to the Remuneration Authority to allow additional costs. So when this was introduced, there was a few councils that have included it in their policy, and it's been suggested that some following wording be allowed for, that members may only be reimbursed for these expenses following a security threat and assessment authorised by the council and undertaken by a suitably qualified person or organisation. And then the council will reimburse that cost of the assessment, and then and again similarly for the childcare allowance, it is one, it would be a claim that is made to myself and needed to be reviewed for reasonableness. And again, if there is a feeling it's not reasonable and there is a potential dispute between myself and the member, then again it will be reviewed by the Audit and Risk Committee. I suppose the key thing on the top of page 80, that initiation of a security threat and risk assessment would most likely need to come from the member themselves, first of all. It's not sort of a carte blanche, let's just do all 11 of you plus the 11 10 community board members. I mean, there would need to be some reason for initiating it if we've got ratepayers banging on the door, or that may be a reason to initiate an assessment. And then the result of that assessment would determine the appropriate level of home security. But it is a reimbursement. So if at the moment, if it would be up to the maximum of 4,500 if you want to install a significantly higher spec system, you will only be reimbursed for 4,500 unless the remuneration authority agrees to reimbursing an additional amount. And then again, as Councillor Daly stated, that claim will be funded by the ratepayers either through the governance rates or the respective community board community rates.
Okay, Chris, sorry,
Make
you
it
go.
very quick, I know. In regards to the security system, would the value and the expenditure be relative to the threat in your assessing?
I'm assessing, I would expect so, yeah, and that's why we need an expert to do that.
Thank you.
Pauline and then Robbie. Pauline?
Yeah, thanks very much, Madam Mayor. Through the chair, Jason, what, it's what we feel really, but I'm trying to think about the long run, I guess. What would be the process for an installed system when one ceased to be an elected member? So would that system then be returned to council in the same way that I guess we're provided with a device, and that is, the expectation is that's returned. What's the process there?
That's a very, very good question. I don't have an immediate answer for. My expectation is if it is put in and the council reimburses to whatever level, that's it. If they resign as a member the following day, there's probably no recourse to return it unless we built something within the policy that says that we're pro. So it's an expectation for the 3-year period, and if there'd be some form of repayment of that reimbursement time, but the policy isn't of the determination is silent on those.
Yeah, but we would have the ability to have a clause within our own policy that was indicative of what council believed should happen, because I imagine that, and I don't know a lot about security systems, I have one, but is that, the outlay for the physical parts of the system, there's no reason why that system couldn't then be picked up and, popped into another elected member's backyard or wherever. And I just think that it's just a consequence of that needs to be considered.
Yes, I mean, at the moment, I'm just picking up your point, Pauline, which is a valid one, if you cease to be an elected member and you have the laptop, you can actually purchase that outright at a cost that's been evaluated. So one would assume it could almost do the same thing, actually, that if it had been installed and, you just pay it out. I don't know. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think the security system that's put in is based on the threat to the individual and probably the threat specific to their property as well. So, so the idea of reusing it, probably, you end up with 20 old bloody systems sitting around that go nowhere. Whereas I think the idea of saying to the elected member, you're getting this on the basis that you purchase it at its depreciated value at the end of your term as a councillor.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
what we're already doing.
it's a,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's not an option.
No,
That's the gig you're going into.
yeah. Okay, Robbie?
Yeah, while the daycare thing, I'm comfortable with now, and I see that as a sort of a progression of council where we're at. I'm not so comfortable with this home security one. I think it's pretty subjective, and I think there's a touch of knee jerk to it, to be honest. We've touched on whether a council leaves early and all the rest, right? But a couple of other things that I wonder about. I wonder about the public perception or reaction to this. And I worry that we're doing that while some staff have got more risk to them than what we've got to us. But the biggest thing is, you know, we're already asking a few questions here, and what about this, what about that? We're opening up a chunk of work, a can of worms, you know, an authorised threat and risk assessment by who? Is that the police or who? Do we put it all on our financial officer to suddenly to be security? You know, and it comes on him, and if there's an argument, you know, it's on Joseph's shoulders. You know, I just think we're opening up a complicated thing. Yeah, it doesn't sit comfortable with me at the moment.
Any other questions?
Just a comment really. I would strongly propose that when we come to resolve, I would like to see these two different allowances separated, because I think they are quite different to each other, and I think I would be very uncomfortable with adopting or voting for or against adopting a policy with them both in there. I would like the ability, when it comes to that point, to be able to I guess vote on each individually. I feel like they are two quite different topics. I certainly have different views.
I guess the policy is expenses and allowance, so we've already adopted the mileage, travel time scenario and internet mobile phone. Is that separate? I mean, we've already asked those. So it's just been wrapped up in this whole policy with those allowances. Yeah, so.
But I think the thing is that we're all comfortable with those parts of the policy, and the two that we are discussing now and looking to make a decision on are the two that perhaps there might be some different viewpoints around the table. And I think, I guess Graham, maybe you can advise there must be a way for us to.
It's a pretty simple way to handle it, if that's the way that you chose to handle it, and that whoever moves it would move, noting that council had already accepted the policy with the exceptions of the childcare and security allowances, and then you would have a motion to consider those two items separately. So there would be a consideration of the childcare allowance, you would vote on that, and then the consideration of security allowance.
Thank you, that's exactly what I'm asking for.
So there is a way of doing it if somebody was of a mind to do it.
Ready to go on that?
I'm not sure if everybody's completed their.
Any other questions? There you go.
Okay, can I then just start with one?
Yep.
Okay, so
So do we need to do a motion that special discipline have to put that as the motion?
So I guess what we're saying, it will be noted that the mileage, travel and internet has already previously been adopted. That's correct, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, I was thinking, it's clearly outlined in the appendix 1, the addition of childcare and the home security system changes. So perhaps council just needs to address whether it will include childcare allowances within the home security allowance.
Yeah, okay, so we just actually look at
So
those
everything
two
else
items.
is not change.
part of it, yeah, okay.
Noting that the rest of it's already been approved.
Yeah, that's right,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, so Grant will note that in the minutes. Yes, that's been approved, and I'm looking for some guidance then on the childcare allowance to separate it out. Okay? With removing a seconder to adopt the childcare allowance or not, as it's written in the on page 82 and 83 in your agenda pack.
Propose that in a second.
Propose the childcare allowance as written. You have been moved that. Do I have a seconder for that? Correct. Any other questions? Statements around that? So that motion.
So can I speak?
Yeah.
Just in regards to this, I'm going to speak against adopting the childcare policy. I know that we don't have to consult on this with our constituents. I have had some constituents approach me since the time of the last meeting, and so I have considered their viewpoint. I have been in a position where, having had children in my care, I've always had to manage work commitments and childcare. This is a paid position that we sit in, and we've been elected to sit in that position. And in putting myself forward for this position, I did so in an informed manner. And I was aware that not only childcare commitments, should I have them, but work commitments would need to be taken into account on a personal level. It feels to me a little bit of a double-edged sword. If, as elected members, I was to support a childcare allowance policy, and yet we don't have that in place for our staff. I think, as I said, I'm absolutely in favour of promoting diversity and access around the table. But I think that these are things that, as potential members, that we have to manage. And I am really concerned about the burden on our ratepayers. I think that the childcare allowance is fairly straightforwardly set out, and the eligibility is clear. It could open a door for a huge burden for our ratepayers. So I think I'm going to speak against.
Speaking against that. Thank you. Any other councillors want to speak against that motion? Thank you.
I mean, I would on a personal level. I agree we want to encourage diversity in younger people, but I also think as a society we undervalue that role of bringing up children and raising them as well. It'd be nice to see emphasis on that.
Okay. Any other comments speaking against the policy?
I speak against it. I reiterate with what Councillor White mentioned in regards to the burden on our ratepayers, and when our own staff behind the scenes aren't being given the same privilege, I think it needs to be considered as well.
Thank you. I'm looking for members to speak in support. We've been 3 against.
You probably never thought you'd see it, but I will put it forward. I said almost as a bit of a coming of age thing with council. Nationally, there's all daycare, childcare allowances being put in. I hear the point around the staff. I think in a full-time position, you take it on, whether you can or you can't, and with eyes wide open. Council, we're talking a few days a month. And I do see that it is probably a wee sector of the community that at the moment can't. I do appreciate that, we're not saying we're going to provide a dairy farmer or someone to milk the cows while he's here, or someone in the post shop, somebody to stand in while they're here. I understand that, but I think it's kind of a coming of age thing, so I'd speak for it.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve.
I would back up Councillor Brisbane here. It's having a policy is one thing, enacting a policy is another thing. So I think the fact that we as a council have a policy towards this and have a very clear indication of allowance towards it is a very sensible thing for us to do. There are very clear determinations as to the criteria that needs to be met within this, which means that just the fact that you have children doesn't mean that you will meet the standard to get that allowance. So I'm in support of us having a very clear policy with clear allowances to enable more people to consider this role at whatever age they are.
So anybody else like to speak in favour of this motion? Okay. That being the case, we've heard from you, you've made your statements, and did everyone see it? Everyone see it of the childcare allowance. So sorry, all in agreement that we accept the childcare allowances as written on page 82, 83 in your agenda pack. Please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Aye. Hang on, I'm going to have hands up. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. That might be the case. If you're in agreement to the childcare allowance as written, please raise your hand. Those against?
Sustain.
Abstain.
I voted to support the childcare allowance, so I will vote in support.
And maybe, sorry, again, to those members voting against, wish to have their votes recorded.
Yes, please. Thank you, Graham.
Thank you, Graham.
And if I can, my reasoning for support for this childcare allowances is that it does support our better understanding and to allow opportunities for our community. I would be surprised that it will ever be drawn on. Will be drawn on a little later, but I do actually request that this policy, when it is put on the agenda for both the community boards, that the community boards actually clearly understand that if it is drawn on it at a community board level, it will be funded by the amenities of that not the full council. I think that's really important. Thank you. So now we're going to have a discussion about the home security system. You all understand the reasoning behind this. You all understand the risk assessment procedure, and we've had a discussion about what do we do when we're no longer in council and all of those sorts of things. So I'm quite happy to consider this unless you've got any further discussion around the home security system. Someone like to?
Madam Mayor, just make one comment. In the very bottom, you have security threat and risk assessment procedure, and it says members may only be reimbursed for these expenses following security threat and risk assessment authorised by the council. But it's actually following a security threat and risk assessment initiated by the member, which is then authorised by the council. So the procedure would be, it has to be initiated by the member.
Yep. Okay.
Then authorised by the council and then undertaken.
So we're going to add those words into the policy. That would be initiated by me, and then or whoever. Yeah, that's right. Okay, I'm pretty comfortable. Thank you for raising that, Steve. Oh no.
Just on that point, Madam Mayor, in the situation where I, as Chief Executive, was aware of the threat to members, specifically to members, and I wanted to have an assessment done, which might result in a security system. I mean, if somebody made a threat to me about a particular member.
So and/or initiated by the member, authorised by the council.
Well, that would capture it all, wouldn't it? Or would it not happen because it has been a discussion with either you, Hamish, or myself, that wouldn't an elected member would come to?
Yeah, I guess the issue is that some of the elected members might be reluctant to come forward to claim this, whereas I believe it was a really significant credible threat. I much prefer that council took the proactive step of getting this done rather than waiting for the member to say I want it done.
So and or would capture it, is that?
Yeah, I'm just referring back to page 80, where it says the initiation of security threat risk assessment will need to come from the member. So, and or the council.
So those words specifically in the policy?
Management.
I think, yeah, members may be,
Yes, thanks, Jason.
may only be reimbursed for these expenses following a threat, security threat and risk assessment initiated by the member and risk assessment authorised by the council, in brackets, either by initiation of the member or the council itself. Close brackets.
Yeah, that kind of captures everything, doesn't it, really? Yeah, that way. Yeah, thanks for that discussion. Rightio. Any other comments? Someone like to move with those minor amendments that we adopt the home security system allowance? Fiona, am I looking for you?
Happy to move that after discussion previously with the fact that it will have a risk assessment and it's not just claimed willy-nilly. I'm happy to move that we put it in with that change to the wording.
Thank you. Seconder?
Having a second, I'd like to say that having been the subject of threats in our predominantly rural area and having had legal advice through Hamish and our solicitors over the similar threat, I strongly support this motion, and there should be no impediment to us seeking security, bearing in mind the press are reporting up to 80% of elected officials have had forms of threats. I think that it is absolutely critical that we do prove this.
Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder. I will apply standing orders again. If you want to make a statement to speak in favour or against it, other than that, I will put the motion. Hands up, Robbie.
Yeah, reluctantly, I'll speak against it at this stage. For a couple of reasons. Security systems are great if you want to get some evidence and secure an eviction or something like that. Do they actually stop the initial act, or do we have to go South African and putting fences around properties and electric fences or whatever? So I'm just not quite sure exactly. Do they achieve the goal, or do they just record what happened and get a conviction or something later? But the complications behind it, putting it on the CFO to do security adjustments and all the rest of it, I just think it comes with too much luggage.
I'm quite clear that she's a
Qualified person.
qualified person. I ain't a qualified person.
Qualified in a lot of areas.
Well, even putting it into your areas, as I say, it's like, is it police work? Who makes someone to make it?
I think we've got the intent, Robbie, so thank you. Anybody else want to speak against this motion as it stands? Someone like to speak in favour of the motion? Pauline?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, I'm going to speak in favour of this. Threats to elected members are out of our control. And so I take heart by the fact that there will be a risk assessment and a policy in place that makes a determination on whether or not that threat is at a high enough threshold. And so I'm in support of having this provision there for members should they need it. Probably wouldn't use it myself because I already have security, but I think it's important that we are able to protect ourselves against things that we may not yet be aware of. And I have been in that situation, and for that reason I'm speaking forward.
Thank you. Steve?
Yeah, likewise, I've been in support of the policy. The policy is around the allowance and it's focusing on the allowance that we're looking at. And so to have it, like with the childcare, to have this as a very clearly articulated sum that can be set against any potential threat in the future, that we have a policy allowance for it, makes perfect sense.
Anybody else? I'll take silence if we're ready to vote. So we understand what we're voting on is adopting the home security system allowance with those minor adjustments that have been made to the policy. So all in agreement to that, please raise your hand.
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Those against? 3. Yep. And 1 abstention. Will not get everybody. Yeah. Do it again. Put your, if you're
It's one of those days.
Yeah.
All those in favour?
Aye. Yep. Okay.
Mayor, and again, to those leaders voting against.
Rightio, so the motion's carried. All right, let's move on. Oh, sorry, Tom.
Can I just ask a question on protocol here? In both of these votes, you have voted and had your vote recorded. But in the vote on the Grierson Road, your vote was not recorded as either for, against, or abstention.
Yeah,
And I wondered
yeah.
what are the protocols in that situation?
I've talked with Graham and I will mark an extension to the Gresham Road.
Sorry?
I will abstain from voting on the Gresham Road. Thank you. Talk that through. Rightio, we are at 11:27 and so we're a wee bit not making our mark. I'm conscious that we need to get some of this work done because we've got our presentation at 1 PM. So yeah, we've got a wee bit of work to do. So Jason, can I ask you to take us through the financial report? And then we'll look at those other reports. Thank you.
Mayor, and look, apologies, councillors, was late last night that I was able to send the financial report through, and that's just again, as I mentioned in my email, it was I'm still experiencing challenges in extracting the right information. So we spent the time extracting the information. No time's been able to be applied, given annual reporting process going on at the same time to analyse the numbers. But this is certainly where I sit an improvement on what I provided last time, and we'll make continual improvements after that. So the financial report to the end of October, it's that one that I've handed around. I'm happy to go through it page by page as we've done in the past. Interest of time and a little bit of some of the detail I might not have be completely over, but I suppose that where we currently sit, total revenue for the year to date, and I'll concentrate on the year to date figures there. And total revenue sits at about 20.5 million. Our budget for the first 4 months of the year was just a skate under. So we're above budget at the moment. There's a couple of items that are higher than budget, particularly grants and subsidies, and that's primarily sitting around roading subsidies, and development contributions at the moment are higher than what we have budgeted. And then total expenditure, operating expenditure, sitting at 23.5 million, about $800,000 down on what we budgeted for the period. And then capital expenditure sitting on about 4.8 million, and total capital expenditure for the year, which includes the amounts that were approved in the annual plan plus the amounts that were specifically carried over, sits at 37.7 million for the year. I will note that the budget still hasn't had time to be able to calendarize it correctly, and I mentioned at the last stage, large amount of the rest of the period happens over the summer, so you would expect there's a higher level of costs, capital expenditure, sort of should be budgeted for that December, January, February, March period, rather than exactly a 12th. It's going to be incurred each month. Yeah, so so that's overall. Page 2 is the water supplies as they currently sit. Overall, we're close to the operating deficit budget. Rates are slightly down on the budget for the 4 months, but that's primarily due to the timing of the receipt of rates from district council. They collect the water rates on behalf of council for any of the consumers to the actually water scheme that are on the other side of the boundary. So we've got an agreement, an agency agreement with Waimak District Council. They collect it on our behalf, pay over the rates on a quarterly basis, and that's really at the end of each quarter. Exactly the same agreement with Environment Canterbury. We collect the rates on their behalf and then pay them at the end of each. Our agreement requires us to pay that 10 days after the due date of the rate. So we've got some money coming to them. And again, capital expenditure listing there, we're only a smaller portion of the total cost for the full year. Sewerage is likewise similar discussion there. Our revenue slightly up on budget, particularly in development contributions, and to date our expenditure is lower than budget. So for the first 4 months, we're better than what our budget suggested, and being in that 4 months, there's only been a small amount of the capital expenditure incurred. So we're on page 4. Major variance there. It's just in the expenditure where both direct expenditure and employment costs are lower than budget, and our capital expenditure costs are again only a small portion of that has been incurred so far this year. Page 5 is roads and footpaths, and we've got a higher level of grants and subsidies received for the period. That's sort of not quite in keeping with the expenditure, both the operating expenditure and the capital expenditure, both are lower than what we had allowed for in the budget. But I do say there will be some carryovers in some of the subsidy money that's been received from last year. There's always a wee bit of a wash up that needs to be accounted for. So we'll be able to, once we've got a bit more detail and a bit more confidence in the numbers, be able to analyse that correctly.
Through the chair, has the storm events going to have a major effect in the next month?
Yeah, they will do. There will be some expenditure at the moment. So the cost of that won't have been completely realised in the October financials. There'll be a component of it that we've paid for through our contract accord, but I wouldn't put my house if we've got everything allowed. And there was a tail to some of that work as well. It didn't all happen immediately after Labour Week.
Just Jason, I'm just working out our total revenue 63 million. And I suppose when we go to the new water entity, it'll be without stormwater included, comes to about 16.5 million of income we will lose. It's going to make quite a difference to
Yep, and just on that matter, you will be get some breathing space, though, we do need to do an amended long-term plan that will essentially extract the water activities out of our current long-term plan. And that will largely be coupled with the new annual plan that won't have water in it as well. So there will be some more work abound with that. That is on the basis that we do go live with the new water services CCO on the 1st of July.
Sorry, Bobby, Jason. In regards to Councillor Daly's note about the loss of that 16 million, presently looking at these, our expenditure across the water assets is in excess of that per annum, or is it less? So
overall expenditure, including depreciation. Yes.
Yeah, including depreciation. Okay. So, in your opinion, will we balance against that in regards to our outgoings? We're losing these outgoings and we're losing the revenue from it. Will it affect us at the other end? Tricky, sorry.
I'll be in a position to provide much better information about that in the new year. But we do have a range of operating costs that will move directly to the WISCO. They'll be responsible for the depreciation but our water service delivery plan, the budgets surrounding that still allowed for the staging process to fund that depreciation, as we've allowed for in our long-term plan. So we don't have, we never foresaw that we would be balancing the budget for water and stormwater until very late in the long-term plan. In fact, the end of the current long-term plan. And that rationale has been carried forward into the budgets that we applied to the water service delivery plan, which was subsequently approved by the Secretary of Local Government. So they're aware of that, but that meant that we aren't proposing to meet all the relevant covenants required from the funding provider within the 5-year period that they've got as a default. We need to extend that for a couple of years, and that is pulling in the Kaikoura revenue and expenditure and capital expenditure in as well. I don't know if I explained it or not explained it enough.
Well, as you pointed out, excuse me, as you pointed out, more knowledge will be available in February next year.
Yeah. I've got the basis of that already. It's perhaps not quite in a format that I can. Well, it will be in a format that I can give, but it just needs a bit of explanations. And I think Claire is doing a workshop next Tuesday Tuesday afternoon. So some of that information will be available for that.
Thank you.
We will move on.
Okay, sorry, no, I'm move on with the climate adaptation on page 6. You see the line item there being under income. That is, we were predicting that we would developing the Watanow Beach subdivision and selling some of those sections within this financial year. So you can see that there is still expenditure to be incurred on that subdivision work, and obviously we won't get any revenue until that's complete. Public services on page 7. Again, revenue was higher than what we had budgeted for the period, which does include development contributions, and expenditure for the time being is lower than budget. And capital expenditure, as with all, is lower than what we intended to spend for the first time. Page 8 is regulatory services, and a couple of key variances there. Just the revenue from various components, including buildings consents and resource consents, are down on budget, but our expenditure, particularly the employment costs, are lower than budget for that period. page 9 is thermal pools results. So what we try and provide there is not just the gross income and gross expenditure. We provide in this page the actual profits earned by the thermal pools for each particular month and for the year to date. So at the moment, the pools have recorded a surplus of 147,000. The budget for that period was only 30,000. So I've just got that from the financial reports that Sarah has provided. I think she's doing an update this afternoon as well. And then there's some capital expenditure that we've incurred. That capital expenditure budget there, again, there's a significant amount that has been carried forward from the previous year, not including the fly ride that was excluded from the formal approval for the carry forwards, but we had $2 million allowed for $2,050,000 worth of CapEx allowed for in the annual plan, and we carried forward 2.2 million of unspent capital work from the previous year. The page 10 is governance and corporate, and there's a few variances here, and particularly in employment costs and other direct expenditure that I need time to dig down and work out what that is. I suspect there are items that are getting picked up under this activity that may relate to other activities, and that is part of the configuration issues we have with our general ledger system at the moment, and just getting that resolved. So to give you what makes up that $1.256 million variance and other direct expenditure quite right at the minute, but we are working to make sure that that number is valid, and if it's not, it will be sitting somewhere else. So
So this is the pool that any of the allowances that we've just approved come out of.
That's
Right.
where it will do for the governance corporate the governance.
And with 53 down there.
Let's not done
With adjustments to that.
Variations.
Variations, yeah. Timing variances.
But those allowances for community board members won't come from
No,
this
they
budget, they'll come
from
from the amenities
amenities
rate.
account,
Yeah.
It's under public services. So there is more work to do, and I do apologise. It's not, and as I mentioned, not quite at the level that I want to provide. And certainly, Council are used to having quite a lot of narrative about the movements, and I haven't been at a point where I can provide that quite yet either. The final page here is just the earthquake recovery account, and both of those are sitting ahead of budget.
So for new councillors, so this page actually is the costs that were incurred by our district to recover from the 2016 Taranui Taipanga earthquake. So, and this will be paid off in the life of this LTP.
Yeah, I think,
the plan.
within 6 years, I think, fine. So this was a debt that was resolved, created by things like the excess to insurance claims, the local share of the roading costs, and a significant amount of response costs and recovery and management costs that we had to incur. It is offset a little bit because within this area we built or the buildings in the houses, 4 houses in to Waiau, and so the revenue of that's helping to offset the debt costs as well. The other thing that we've been able to provide this time is a capital expenditure report, which is the other argument. And this just breaks down the capital expenditure budget into individual projects and then just monitoring how they are going against those projects. So there's a lot more detail provided in this report will be certainly improved upon as we get a bit more confidence with the information coming from us. Well, that's the financial report. There are two other components of the overall financial report, the provider arrears report, and I did mention that I would provide an update at this meeting. Just to let you know that the rates owing as of today is at 2.8 million, and at the same time, well, not the same time, as of the 30th of November 2024, that amount was just over 2 million. So it's about $800,000 difference. I do know that there has been transactions that we've received for rates over the last since the 20th that just haven't been processed against the rates account. So I'll have a better line of sight on that at the end of the month. But I'll get back to a point where I'm just providing it monthly so we can judge, we can match that against the numbers from an historic point of view.
Sorry, Pauline. Thank you, through the chair. Jason, just in regards to that, are we still following up on rates and arrears?
Yep, and we have part of our resources dedicated to doing that, and we do have following up with one particular rate there at the moment. So it's
yeah, thank you.
Right, and the last component of the financial report is the treasury account, and that's been provided there. So Bancorp provide our treasury dashboard, and that's the key details of page 889. Key thing here is that all of our policy constraints are within all the limits, both in the liquidity and funding and also the interest rate risk following page. Currently our debt level is 92.5 million. That hasn't changed over the month. And the of interest though is the weighted average cost of funds on page 80. And it's the second bottom in the top right hand box, sitting at 3.93%. So that's a drop from the 4.02% at the end of September. And that's reflecting the drop in the short-term interest rates. Just on that, the visual cash rate sits at 2.5%. Next review from the Reserve Bank is tomorrow. Much of the commentary is that it will drop to 2.25%. At the end of October, the 90-day bank bill rate set at 2.5%. Last week when I wrote this, it was 2.5. Yesterday, it sat at 2.405%. So indications that the market may have already costed in another change, another reduction to the OCR. And I'll run through that information relatively quickly. I'd like to do so as well. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions, but if there are, acknowledging that this was provided very late in the piece, if there are any specific queries, please let me know and I'll try and provide some detail. But we are still making improvements to this with our new system, and it's not quite at the point where I'm 100% happy yet, but we're getting there.
Good on you, Jason, I appreciate that, but I just reinforce the fact that if you go home and read these reports and you get a question, you know, an email correspondence with Jason will be okay, and maybe Jason will respond to everybody if it's of value to everybody. So thank you for that. I think that, you know, clearly you're heading in the right direction with the integrity of those reports. So I know it's been a bit of a battle for you. These hands up questions? Or,
Yeah, so just in regards to the council cost of funds compared to the OCR and PKPM, like that gap is widening. Are we expecting it to?
It will continue to widen because we do have, and that is the cost of creating certainty of the interest rate. So we do that through through either using fixed rate portion of our debt, and that's listed on, you can see that clearly on page 91. The right down the bottom, these 5 tranches of our debt that we took out as fixed rate back in 2023, 2024, and you can see that the interest rates relating to those were done at the time at the underlying short-term rates, but they're locked in for the duration of that or until maturity. But they're much higher than the rates are now. And the other component of the creating that certainty is on page 92 with the interest rate swaps. And you can see all but 2 of them, the interest rates that we locked in for that period are now higher than the underlying interest rates. But that is and you can see two tranches of the debt there, which were taken in 2021. We have swap rates of 1.44 and 1.58 respectively, still considerably lower than the 90-day macro rate currently. So there is still some benefit from those, but again, it is that snapshot at the time.
Thanks for that.
Cool. I've got a question coming from
Jason, what time do you think you'll be able to start delivering financials to ward committees and advisory groups?
I am very, very mindful of that. We can provide them. It's just quite a long and involved manual process at the moment. We're just sorting out now whether we've got the configuration right to be able to just easily provide that information. So the side of Christmas, I wouldn't hold my breath, but certainly in the new year, absolutely. We can't not provide that information leading up to the budget process. So I'm loath to make promises, but I'm do what I can to make sure that that's
because they'll be doing their budget soon.
Correct. Well, that's what we're talking about. Yeah. So unlikely for you to send your meeting next week, for your training meeting in the Haranui one. So that'll be the last meetings for this side of Christmas. But it's anticipated that once we come back, which will be sort of February, because it will lead into that budget process. Yeah. I've got a quick question from Tom and Dave.
Another question, a point actually, on page 91, you've got all those tranches of debt and the interest rates. It wasn't so many months back that those figures were all with 5s in front of them.
Yes.
And now I see the vast majority have got 3s in front of them, and I'm just going to say you're to be commended for doing that. Thank you very much. I think you've done a great job there getting those rates down.
They're all on floating rates, so obviously they will match against the reduction in the short-term interest rates. I don't have anything to do with that.
No, we're asking for one clarification. Dave?
Mr. Chair, Jason, I know we can never predict where interest rates are, but we know we're getting supposedly to the bottom of the cycle. So if I look at long term, interest rates under a 5 or under a 4 are pretty damn good. So I'm sure the Audit and Risk Committee are now thinking that this might be the time to take some long term money at those rates at around that 4 or 5. And maybe you've got to take it, my perception is 5, so take a percentage off it. Off the view is it's more around that policy, isn't it? Of having those stuff. And I suppose you know, part of supplementary is you've still got faith in this CE system because 6 months down the track and we don't like change and
it's, yeah, we've made improvements and you'll continue to make improvements. So it's just getting the configuration right so we can extract that information out readily like we.
there was a lot of money when we proved it.
It is the
Michael,
anticipation.
that thing's gonna come back.
The investment was about betterment, so you know. Bit of a phase. Someone willing to move that we receive?
Yeah.
Thank
Along
you.
with the comment I wanted to make before, was that when we look at this, the key thing, and we always say at Audit and Risk is, are we within our funding KPIs? No yeses, there's no no's there, and this is entirely a process of interest rate swaps, all of that, that's part of that policy. This tells you whether we're in or out of it, so I'm happy to move, with the information we expect.
Thank you, Fiona. Do I have a second for that? Thank you, Tom. All in agreement with that, please say aye. Those against, that's carried. I am going to whip through these next few, and if we can just consider the questions, that would be helpful. Graham, we've got the Lagoima request. This is your paper, it's always pretty self-explanatory.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just the only updates of 3 and 6. We were responded to on Friday. Both done. So just things on 2 and 3.
Any questions in regard to the Lagoima request?
Move the information we received.
Thank you, Fiona. Fiona, sorry. Do I have a second? Thank you, Steve. All in agreement to that, please say aye. Against, that's carried. Hamish, the monthly performance report. Right. To take it as read. Is there any questions in regard to the performance measures? Probably mostly related to the red stuff that we've been reporting on those for the last few while. So someone happy to move it? Thank you, Tom. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Chris. Kathy. Questions, all in agreement to that, please say aye. Okay, that's carried, thank you. Audit and Risk, Fiona, from an Audit and Risk Committee perspective. Do you want to just
Oh, look, I think that the information speaks for itself. I will say, when we hit some time with the Audit New Zealand, just with the governance, they were very pleased with the way they were working with the team and they got quite chatty, so it took us a while to remember to get staff back in the room. But it's a process and I think we're doing pretty well really. We've made some good decisions along the way to hold off at times, but we'll work on the work program going forward. So I move that the information be accepted.
someone willing to receive that information? Thank you, Robbie. All in agreement with that, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's carried. I've got two new members of the Youth Council, Pauline and Chris. Do you want to, Chris Carthy, do you want to speak to any of the paper there on 101, 102? Taken as read.
Oh yeah, pretty much taken as read. Can I just say what a phenomenal group of young people. And just portfolio updates there, number 9. Each of the young people gave updates on their portfolios, and these young people have got some pretty amazing plans moving forward. So yeah, exciting, really. Happy to take any questions.
I'd like to reiterate what's been said. I was very impressed with who I met that night and the motivation and also the decision making by young people looking forward to the future. And I think it made me happy. I left it was actually the there's a nice buzz when I left here, understanding that we've got people coming up that are going to lead, which is pretty exceptional.
Good to know that you help that, so this committee you're on. Someone happy to move that we receive that information?
I'll move that,
Thank
thanks.
you, Chris, you can second that, all in agreement with that, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Dave and Chris Scarlett, road safety update, anything on it, add there, Dave?
No, Taylor's read, the only thing is that we had a deputation about wanting to get a proposed 1.5 shingle track to Amberley Beach. Problems with cyclists and horse riders, so some discussion there.
Good. Thank you, nothing to add, Chris. Cool. Thank you, happy to take that paper as read, or move that, Dave? Thank you, having to get it, Chris, thank you, all in agreement with that, please say aye.
Aye.
That's carried. And we have the Hammer Springs thermal pools and spa management update. Okay, thank you. It's pretty self-explanatory there, guys. If you've got any questions, this evening, we'll answer those in Sarah's absence.
Yeah.
Thank you, do I have a seconder? That's great. All in agreement with that, please say aye. Okay, that's carried, thank you. Sorry about that, guys, but I'm just super conscious. So with that, it's 12 o'clock, and you have read the public excluded section, and as councillors, you do need to agree that each of the items on that agenda do meet the expectation that they have grounds to be in public excluded. So can I move someone happy to
On the basis of those that we
thank you. I have a seconder that we move into public excluded. Thank you, Steve. All in agreement to that, please say aye. Okay, that's carried. So we've just got a bit of adjustment to be made here.